friends, welcome back to my channel. I'm Ashley and this is The Rural Companion. In today's video, I'm going to be unloading my 9th graders homeschool cart for this upcoming school year. So if you've been around my channel for any length of time, you know that our family is a homeschooling family. We started from the get-go in kindergarten with my daughter, and then we kind of merged kindergarten and first grade for my son, realizing in hindsight that kindergarten isn't highly necessary as long as you are playing through learning and you don't need quite that rigorous curriculum that we probably did for my first child. You learn as you go, basically. Now, this year we will be starting high school with my daughter, and I am very excited that we have actually made it to this point with homeschooling. Of course, I knew that we could, but when we first started out, high school seemed so far away, and now we are getting there. I am very excited, like I mentioned. Now, I do have a buddy here, and I might as well just point him out. This is our newest addition, Mahalo, and he is probably going to make some noise during this video, and that's just what happens when you have animals in your house. Let me just jump back a little bit before we get started on what's on her cart. I did want to just preface all of this that over the years we have done Charlotte Mason method. Now we are switching to a little bit more of a classical style of education. There is not too much difference there other than Charlotte Mason is often referred to as a gentle feast. It is heavy on literature and hands-on activities, kind of, that just cozy environment. I think of it more of like a hugu style of homeschooling, and the classical is a bit more rigorous. There's a lot more memorization, just not busy work by any means, but there is a lot more writing and things that are just required of the classical student versus the Charlotte Mason student. We also are switching from doing everything all together to each of my students now having their own homeschool cart, and they will be responsible for almost all of their schoolwork independently. We still will be doing our Bible and Latin together, and then each of the students' carts will be tailored toward that student. Now, yes, when my son moves up to 9th grade, some of the things that my daughter is doing, he will also do, but then some things he won't, just because each student is slightly different. So in our homeschool, we don't have any comparison, so it is 100% student-based. Yes, we have the core items like math and history. Of course, they both need to know how to write and read and things like that, but everything is super tailored to each student, which is one or maybe the biggest benefit of homeschooling. So our Bible consists of an actual Bible as well as our scripture memory box. We have been doing this since my kids were probably in 1st or 2nd grade. All of these index cards represent scriptures that we have memorized over the years, which is really cool. We do have a few other things in here, like we memorized the states, or we worked on memorizing pi, the periodic table of elements, the presidents. Random things that we have worked on memorizing over the years have gone into our scripture memory box, and this literally takes about 5 minutes or less every morning. This is just a fantastic method, and I do have a video explaining that right over here, so check that out if you're interested in a fabulous way to learn scripture or memorize anything rather, in just a really basic method. Again, I mentioned that we will be doing Latin together. Now, we have slowly been working through Memoria Press's Latin curriculum. Like, they have years of Latin curricula, and this is the first form. I believe this is for younger students. Let's see if it says. Okay, I believe that this book is geared towards 3rd through 6th graders, so technically we are behind, if you will, on Latin. That doesn't bother me. My goal for doing Latin is because it's actually like equivalent to learning English. And so we are using this for all of our grammar. It does have all of the parts of speech as well as Latin words make up a lot of our English, or Latin root words make up a lot of our English words. So we are learning just kind of the foundation of English. We will continue doing Latin probably for the next 2, maybe 3 years. I haven't totally decided. At least we will finish this and the second form book. I really have enjoyed Memoria Press's Latin books, just the way that they lay out the lesson plans. Everything is just really well put together. We have been doing it together so that we would read the student text, we do the exercises aloud, but I do have both of my students do the tests and quizzes independently. And we have worked through this primarily for test preparation, because now in high school, we do have to start including test grades and things like that, which we just haven't over the years. So my plan for each day is we will meet together, go through Bible, Latin, and then each of my students will separate and go to do their independent work. Now, what I'm calling personal growth is where my students will be reading from either of these 2 books. Both students will have them and be flipping. We will be reading about Fanny Crosby as well as C.S. Lewis. And in this personal growth category, I'm just kind of wanting to challenge and encourage both of my students to realize that other people have gone through challenging experiences throughout time, and to just see the great and wonderful things that they still accomplished even though life was hard. Okay, so first up we have Fanny Crosby. She was born seeing, and then something happened to her within her first couple weeks of life. An accident is what I believe, like a doctor's mistake or something, and that caused her to be blind for the rest of her life. And she did actually go on to write, I believe, the most amount of hymns that anyone has ever written. But anyway, she just has a powerful testimony. And then we also have C.S. Lewis. He became a Christian later in life, and then also wrote just some phenomenal stories. So both of these I'm really excited for my kids to dive into. I will definitely be reading these along with my students, probably beforehand, just so I can grasp if they are understanding it, if they have questions or discussion points, if we need to look further into any of the topics. So that will be our personal growth. Then we will be doing Christian studies. That is a subject in the classical education or on Memoria Press's website. They are using other books, and I just have this book from last year. We had started it and didn't finish it. This was actually recommended from the Charlotte Mason Ambleside online website. We have the Fox's Book of Martyrs. Again, this just goes through people of the church's history. Yes, some of them are Catholic, Protestant, it just kind of is how we got to where we are today. I think it is really, again, important just to read about stories of people who have gone before us that have encountered very difficult experiences and persevered through that. I think that's just phenomenal for our students to read nowadays, especially because we do live in a cushy world. We're not going through the same persecution that was happening hundreds of years ago. Okay, my kitten is teething, and he is biting on everything, including my arm while I'm trying to talk. So for science, both of my students will be using the same thing. It is technically a middle school curriculum series, if you will, but I do plan on using it even for my 9th grader. I have gone through all of our state's graduation requirements, and for the science category, you only need 3 courses or credits to graduate in the state of Oklahoma. You will want to make sure you're doing all of your research to make sure that your students are getting exactly what they need. My 9th grader is not as interested in sciences and maths and does not have a career path that will need either of those. So that is why I feel comfortable using a, come on, Mahalo. That's why I feel comfortable using a middle school book for her 9th grade year. So here is our astronomy book. Again, this is for both of my students. We have it's kind of like a workbook of sorts, as well as tests. And again, we will probably be using these more as like quiz grades and test grades. I did get the teacher key and the test booklet, and then here is the text. And of course, we will be doing a lot of supplementing of just reading the text by actually going outside, observing the stars. Hopefully we can get to a planetarium at some point. I would love to get down to Houston and go to like the NASA Space Center, or just kind of get out of just using books, which is something that we've done over the years. Okay, for literature, or if you really want to call it English, we will be going through these 2 books right here. This one is going to be more of the lighter read, if you will. He's determined to get my attention. This is the Sherlock Holmes, The Hound of Baskervilles book, and then we also have the Sir Gawain and the Green Knight. Now this one is going to be more of a deep or heavy read. It is in the original poem style, so it's pretty meaty. So we'll be going through this pretty slow. Again, I will probably be reading these along with my 9th grader so that I can have those great conversations with her as we go through these. These will then also be for next year's 9th grader as well. Now, something that both of my students will be doing this current year is we will be going through the Tales from Shakespeare. Now, we have used this book as well as they have them on a podcast. Sorry, that was the kitty. Not only do they have this in book format, there is also the same stories in audio format. You can find that like on your podcast, wherever you download podcasts, for free stories. I think it's on LibriVox as well. So you can hear them as well as read them. So not only will we be doing the children's paraphrases, we also, we'll be reading the original plays this year, which we haven't actually done. And then we will also be going through them online with a modern English paraphrase. So not only will we get kind of like the children's version, then the audio version, then the original, then the modern paraphrase. I do have this, which is an actual playbook. This one I just have for Henry V, so we'll go through that one. I also plan on, for the Taming of the Shrew, I do plan on actually watching 10 Things I Hate About You. So if you have any other recommendations like of movies based on Shakespeare's plays, any modern fun things, we will be going through that this year. Just kind of a way to bring it to a modern place. I think Shakespeare is really an interesting thing to study, and of course we don't dive terribly deep into like the meaning or the history behind and blah blah blah, but I think it does have a good place in education. Okay, my 9th grader will also be finishing the second half of the Algebra 1 book. This curricula from Math, you see, we have just been very happy with it. My student has just really been able to connect with doing the math. Okay, 9th grade history is going to be Renaissance and Reformation times. This one is, again, a Memoria Press kit that you can buy all together. It has the reading text as well as the student guide. For this particular book, I did not get the teacher guide or the tests that go along with it. My theory is this is a lot of work, so we will probably just count each day's work kind of like a quiz or overall test grade. And I do plan on having her go through this, you know, making sure that we're understanding each concept before we move on. The 2 other physical books that my ninth grader will be doing is traditional logic. We have a student text for that as well as the student workbook. Again, I did not get the teacher guide with the tests, but we will just make this, the grading for this count in place of that. And then finally, we're kind of veering away, which, I mean, we've never really done a specific English or grammar curriculum per se, but this one is more tailored to my ninth grader as she is very interested in writing. We will be going through this. I don't think I'll have my current eighth grader do this next school year, just because he's not interested in writing fiction like my daughter is, and that's totally fine. We'll just find some other thing that fascinates him for making sure that we're getting the writing skill honed for college prep. Now, each week, both of my students will be adding things onto their timelines. We started these last year. Over the course of my children's schooling, we have kept a joint or a combined timeline, and last year I had them start working on an independent timeline. This should travel with them throughout their high school experience. Maybe it will be something that they cherish, maybe it'll be something that they toss. It really doesn't matter, but I just think the physical act of writing something down on a timeline and seeing it in correlation to what you're working on or learning on really helps cement it into the student's brain. It does for me. This is a very Charlotte Mason concept, and we will be keeping that as we move forward. Let's see, I don't have our map books right here, and that I will be using the Draw the World series. We have used this for the past several years, just a fantastic way to learn mapping skills. It not only helps you learn country names, continents, locations of rivers and things like that, which I guess the rivers really, it would be more oceans, but this just allows the student to not only draw, but then coordinate the names of the countries along with your map. Okay, so my ninth grader also will be doing a handful of things online. There is Spanish. We use Easy Peasy High School Online's free Spanish curriculum. It is a really good curriculum, even though it's free. I think it has been perfect. It does actually qualify, like if you do all the work, you're going to get your high school credit for it, even though it is a free resource. I will leave that, actually I can't link that. I will leave that in the show notes below the website in case you're interested in checking that out for your family, as well as my kids do typing. This we have been doing, and I'll leave that link of the website down in the show notes below as well. But my kids have been doing typing lessons for free online, probably for 4, maybe 5 years. I'm not exactly sure on how long we've been doing typing. I just think it's a really good skill, obviously, because they are going to be growing up in a digital world. So we have Spanish, typing. They will also be doing current events, and this is kind of just all across the board. Both of them will be doing the current events. They will either look at some sort of current newspaper, podcast. I haven't totally thought through that one, exactly where they're going to be getting their news. I think it would be good for them to just pull up our local news as well as worldwide news. And then there is also an art course through Easy Peasy that I will have my ninth grader do. It is a half credit, and I'll just have her do that until she finishes it, and that won't last the entire school year. Outside of our house, books and online like computer resource, my ninth grader will also continue doing Civil Air Patrol, ASL with our church. We do, or they do karate and Krav Maga, as well as music lessons. So all of those courses will be handled outside of our house and should count for at least a half credit every school year. Now, again, for high school, you do need to keep track of courses that are going on, grades. We do have a transcript that currently I will just be writing things in as we go. And then at the end of probably each year or maybe every other year, we'll go in and type that onto our printed or our actual hard copy of the transcript. In our next video, I will be going through what is in my 8th graders homeschool cart, and then hopefully I'll bring you along for our first day back to school. All right, thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure to give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of the content that I share with you each week. And thank you again for just being here. I look forward to having you back next time. Goodbye.